welcome to the Laynalifedown show, where we learn to lay our life down with Laynalifedown.
Take your shoes off, you need to.
So here's the dealio. Really, we started Women's Bible Study yesterday, and it was amazing. Beth Moore, absolutely number one, the best thing I've ever seen. However, as I started reading day one today, I kind of said, wait, what? And so, with that said, here births the first video. Day one, what is Beth Moore saying? If you are confused, do not worry, do not fret. We are about to get down in the nitty-gritty and understand what Beth is talking about. So, welcome to the Laynalifedown show. All right, first sentence, it reads, the exact year circled the neighborhood of AD 30 with a circumference perhaps as wide as AD 33. That is a very intelligent statement. However, it can be confusing. What she's trying to say is we don't know the year that Jesus died. It is somewhere between AD 30 and AD 33, somewhere in that ballpark, somewhere in that neighborhood. So first things first, all she wants to do is put some faces, some images, some movie playing thing in your mind of what the history was at the time of Jesus's death. So, she's going to pull out two cities, even though she's talking about a triangle. I'm going to give you a hint right now. The third city does not come until day 4, so don't worry that you don't know what number 3 is. First two cities, we have Jerusalem. To know where Jerusalem is, we need my handy-dandy whiteboard. Ta-da! We've got Asia Minor. We got Jerusalem down here. J-Town. Jerusalem, this is the one that's important. All right, so she asks you to circle it right off the top. This is where Jesus dies. This is the holy city. This is where the temple is. This is where the people come to pray. This is the important town. T-Money. This is the heart of the Roman Greco world. Why is that important? Because right now, everything is taken over by the Roman Greco area. So we've got Alexander the Great, which has taken over the entire Asia Minor. Pause. What does that mean? Before Jesus is born, Greek, Roman Empire takes over everything. Everything. So now there are Roman soldiers in all of the cities that are like, dude, you have to do what we say because we're the Romans and we're awesome. So everyone's following the same laws. Now we've got roads. They're beginning to build roads, which is awesome. So things can travel fast, as in good news can travel fast. Now they're all speaking Greek. So it's like this new language is taken over. Everyone was speaking Hebrew. Now everyone understands Greek, so things can travel fast. Good news can travel fast. Awesome. So now, since Rome has taken over everything, there's no more war because everything is conquered. So we've got this Pax Romana, which is the Roman peace. So it's easy to travel. There's no wars going on. Everyone's speaking the same language. Ha, 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 ha. The time is right. Jesus is born, lives a perfect life, starts his ministry, and starts to rock the waters of the Pax Romana. But that is quite all right. All right, so Beth Moore goes through this really detailed thing of what happens when Jesus dies. This is pretty earth-shattering, to be honest. So Jesus dies this horrible death, and it's awful, totally awful. So go ahead and read through that and see what really is going on and try just to imagine. She uses great words to describe what's going on. So then we get to our second town. So now she's talking about all this stuff. The Jews of Diaspora. What? Diaspora is like dispersion, dispersed. Those who are scattered everywhere, right? So we've got this new people coming in and taking over everything, and they're not about what you're about. So you scatter everywhere. You know, you hit the shepherd and the sheep scatter, right? It's kind of this prophecy that's going on. So really, T-Money over here, this Tarsus place is like the heart of the Greco-Roman world is, right? All of the important people are there. You've got poets, you've got artists. It's kind of like the Paris of the world, where it's like all the writers want to go there. So, second paragraph, we hear this word, fence around the Torah. What is the Torah? Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible. We got Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. These are books that Moses has written about the law, the 10 Commandments, how to do sacrifices, how priests should act. All that kind of stuff is in there. And now the Pharisees has added a fence around it. They're like, don't even get close. Don't even get close to this border at all. Let's stay all the way out here. All of these extra laws have been added to the law of God. We had 10 commandments. Now there's like 1,500,000 things the Pharisees say you should or should not do. All right, so Beth asks about, what does Paul look like to us, right? We've got this idea that though he is small, he is fierce, right? He might be a little guy, but he's got a lot to say and a huge opinion. She puts in the side over here, this earliest description we have in the Apocrypha. Here's the question. What the heck is Apocrypha? Answer for you on the whiteboard. What is that? Some of you might have heard this before. Some of you might have no idea at all. So here, let me help you out. Remember, we talked about the Pax Romana. We talked that the Romans have now taken over everything. Here's the thing. The Torah, remember the first 5 books of the Bible, were written in Hebrew, along with most of the rest of the Old Testament is written in Hebrew. So we have now the next generation who are learning Greek as their first language, not Hebrew. So what do? They take this, boom, they translate it into Greek. So we have the Old Testament, OT, in Greek. So now this is called the Septuagint. Not even going to try to spell that, but the Septuagint, which is not the Apocrypha. So what is the Apocrypha? Septuagint. In the midst of this, the religious people want people to be able to understand what the Old Testament is, not only in their own language, but in concept too, right? So they take all of these other writings that are theological writings, that are historical writings, that are any writing about that day and time, and they also translate it at the same time over here in Greek, so people can understand, hey, this is what the Old Testament is, and this is what's going on during that time. So these books over here, which is not the Bible, but is very closely related to the Bible, is called the Apocrypha. So we have the Septuagint, which is the Old Testament translated into Greek, and the Apocrypha, which is a bunch of other old writings translated into Greek. And now as people write the New Testament in Greek, which is the first language of the New Testament, NT for New Testament, they've also added more books to the Apocrypha of, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, this is what Paul looks like. Hey. All right, so some of you might be asking, why is Paul such a big deal? Paul, a lot of his life is told in Acts, as this is what happened in his life, which is really cool to know. But then after Acts, there's tons of books that Paul actually wrote as letters to the other places in Asia Minor. So the last bit of what's going on here, we have passages to look up. She gives us some from Philippians, Galatians, and from Acts. So this is all stuff about Paul. His nationality, he is born into the nation that is God's promised people. His whole lineage is priests and Pharisees and all that stuff. So he's like, in his DNA, knows God. Then he's born into the Roman birthright, which is already this idea of, remember, the Romans took over everything. So to be a citizen of Rome is like the top-notch first class. So he's got it on the nationality side and birthright citizen side also. And then his whole heritage is about God. Prestigious, proud, all of these kind of things, which is a little crazy. So that's who Paul is. Well, that's who Saul is before he meets Jesus Christ. We're getting close to the end of day 1. At the very end, she talks about what has gotten you to this place, right? What is your story? So we learned about Paul, who he was before he met Christ. So who are you? Who are we, right? We are this holy collision of the natural and supernatural sparks constantly flying, she says. I love the way that is worded. It's we are the physical and the spiritual all mixed together all the time. And then she also says we are together. We're about our genetics. We're about our relationships, our experiences, our age and our education, our talents, our intelligence, our personality, our memories. All of those things is all about who we are. So learning who we are, where that's bringing us spiritually, and where we can go from here, right? So this is awesome stuff. So God knows us fully, and we are beginning to learn ourselves fully by understanding God. I hope that was helpful.